So this is the sentence, volume 1, starting from the beginning. And yes, we are basically going all the way back to the basics with the sentence. And there's a reason for this. And the good news is we're going to move through this pretty quickly. And it's going to get all of us right where we want to be. So hang in there. Put a big smile on your face, because here we go. In this video, we're going to talk about sentences, sentence fragments, and classifying sentences. After watching the video, you will be able to identify sentence fragments, declarative sentences, imperative sentences, interrogative sentences, and exclamatory sentences. And you may already have those skills, and that's great if you do. This could just be a refresher for you. Remember, a sentence is a word group that contains a subject and a verb that expresses a complete thought. Every sentence begins with a capital letter, even the sentence I just read. Every sentence ends with punctuation, even the sentence I just read. Here's our end of sentence punctuation marks. We've got periods, question marks, and exclamation points. So here's some examples of the different types of sentences available to us. Mr. Whitley wet the bed again. Notice it starts with a capital letter and it ends with a punctuation mark, the period. Does anyone have plastic sheets? Begins with a capital letter, ends with a question mark. It's a complete thought. These are disgusting examples. Begins with a capital letter, ends with an exclamation point, and it shows emotion. Stop. Now, stop works because it is an imperative sentence, and the subject, which is you, is understood. I'll tell you more about these when you're older. Now, a sentence fragment is a word group that looks like a sentence, but does not contain both a subject and a verb, or it does not express a complete thought. So you see, sometimes sentences have subjects and verbs, but they're not complete thoughts. And then sometimes there's complete thoughts that maybe don't have a subject or a verb. No, I'm just kidding. That never happens. So let's look at some examples. A fragment would be, was a strange but tolerable teacher. Now, if we wanted to turn this into a complete sentence, we would say something like, Mr. Whitley was a strange but tolerable teacher. Let's look at the verb and the subject. Notice in the fragment, it does not have a subject. And I know you might be thinking, but that word teacher, that's a noun, but it's not the subject of the sentence, so it doesn't work. Now below, in our complete sentence example, Mr. Whitley's the subject, was is the verb, and it's a complete thought. Let's look at another one. Here's a fragment. A teacher with no hair and used clothes. What's missing here? Oh, I know. It's missing a verb. So let's make a complete sentence with a verb in it. A teacher with no hair and used clothes fell off the wall. Notice in our fragment, we have a subject but no verb, and in our complete sentence, we have our subject and our verb. Let's do another one. Even though they studied all night. Now this is interesting because it does have a subject and a verb, but there's still something wrong with it. So let's make it into a complete sentence. Even though they studied all night, the students still had a hard time on the math test. So you'll notice there's a subject and verb in our fragment up above. The problem is it's not a complete thought. So we use that same fragment below and we add a complete thought to it, which also has a subject and verb. Even though they studied all night, the students still had a hard time on the math test. Now, the second part of this lesson is classifying sentences. We need to know how to classify sentences so that we know how to punctuate them. So let's talk through the 4 types of sentences. The first type is a declarative sentence. These sentences make a statement and they end with a period. Here's some examples. Nothing tears a family apart like a pack of wild dogs. If a pig surprises you, it's called a ambush. I like toast too. These are all statements that someone might make declaring something, and they all end in a period. The second type of sentence is an imperative sentence. And these give a command or they make a request. Now, most imperative sentences end with a period. A strong command ends with an exclamation point. The subject is always you. Here's some examples. Please close the door. That's a request. Take notes. That's a mild command. Stop it. That's a strong command, and it ends in an exclamation point. The third type of sentence is an interrogative sentence. An interrogative sentence asks a question and ends with a question mark. Examples. What do you know about rabies? Question mark. Was the party exciting? Question mark. How do you tie your shoes? Question mark. These are all opportunities for someone to ask another person for information. Those are interrogative sentences. The fourth and final type of sentence is an exclamatory sentence. These show excitement or strong feeling, and they end with an exclamation point. Your face is killing me. That's one. That's two. I can't wait for spring break. So let's recap. Remember, a sentence is a complete thought with a subject and verb. Sentences begin with capital letters and end with a punctuation mark. And there are 4 types of sentences: declarative, which are statements; imperative, which are commands; interrogative, which are questions; and exclamatory, which are excited.